GM everyone, hello and welcome to yet another Developer Skills. Today we will be welcome Pavel from Staking Facilities. He is the CEO and you will get like insights about what data science is about on blockchain, about validators, and also just what their take is about. And I think this will be a very interesting one for all of the developers of you, because we have a local and global track supported by Staking Facilities. So I'm also curious of the people who join us today, if you're building for this track and if you're looking into it, because today you will get more insights and just what it's all about. So without further ado, let's invite Pavel to the stage. Hello.
Hello, thanks, Mike. Thanks for the introduction. Just minor correction, CTO, not CEO, but that's okay. We're going to talk about technical items, but I'll actually keep it more of a conceptual. So I'm not going to deep dive into one particular technical topic, but instead I really want to give you guys the perspective of what a modern validator aspect on economy and validator economy in particular looks like, and how you should approach whatever you're building to the tracks that we run together with Super Team, and in general, if you're looking to build something on the infrastructure and validation side. And of course, thanks to Mike and Super Team for the invite. I'm also then just going to go ahead without further ado and going to start describing who we are and what we do. Staking Facilities is a validator born and still operating from Munich, Germany, as German as it gets. And we operate bare metal servers. Why is this relevant? You'll understand a little bit further, but bare metal servers, for those of you that do not know that much about validators, we really run our own hardware, installing it in data centers. We have our own uplinks, dark fibers, really doing everything from scratch, like the whole network configuration. And this has become like a baseline or a requirement for any modern validator. Otherwise, you just can't get the performance you need. And this allows us to do a lot of interesting things. I mean, being that close to the hardware allows us to optimize and even do hardware analysis, hardware utilization analysis on our validators. And this is relevant, very relevant for Solana. So we operate multiple chains, but for Solana, this has become really relevant because we are pushing the limits of physics practically with the Solana network. It has become so fast that, at some point, you really start to look into custom hardware architectures even to squeeze that extra performance. But we can talk more about hardware and networks when we meet face to face or on some of the hackathons. I'm going to move on to more towards the topic of today. But first, I'm going to stop and talk about what is a validator. So you know what a validator is as a concept. But it has not been anymore just running stuff. Yes, you run the hardware, you operate everything around it. But we are actually an opinionated entity within the network. So this means that when certain things are being changed or we need to act in a particular way, we have to weigh in. And for us, it takes weeks of analysis, for example, to vote on something. We have internal discussion. Okay, maybe I exaggerated weeks, but for sure we discussed days of how to vote on certain improvement proposals, and we take seriously the economic effects, the overall Solana ecosystem when we do these things. And we do this for the greater good, for the good of the network. And We as a validator, so our main area of expertise is Solana, but we also operate multiple other chains. For example, being a Wormhole Guardian means we operate 30 other chains. So we have a pretty good overview of everything that is going on in the validator space. And for those of you that have not been following, here's a little glimpse into what has been going on. It has become super competitive. The commissions are racing to the bottom, and there is an attracting stake has become really difficult. Not for us alone. It's a team that has been going on across all validators in all ecosystems. And this means that certain validators are even shutting down. Of course, this will balance out. Eventually, the network will balance things in a way that it becomes at least sustainable. But it's definitely not what used to be, let's say, 3, 4 years ago, where you just spin a validator, you know how to operate it, and then you get delegation or stake coming your way. So definitely way more competitive than before. And this led us to one of the concepts that I want to talk to you about or share with you today after some brainstorming. When you are a validator, what are you selling as a validator? In the very basic sense, you just operate stuff, all right. But that's not true. The meaning is much deeper, and what we focus on is the concept of block space. So really what we're selling is block space you can imagine it as real estate. You are allocated as a validator a certain amount of block space that you control within a certain time frame. It's really just the validator that says, yes, this is what's going to go into the blockchain. And you can think of this block space as an abstract concept. I mean, a lot of what the hype has been, of course, around MEV, but there are a lot of other use cases that block space is very relevant. And I'll take some extreme examples just explaining what it is, but you can imagine that in the beautiful day where a lot more economic activity has moved on chain, there are entities like, for example, a payroll provider that needs to pay thousands of people. And for them, it's relevant that the transactions go through, but it doesn't have to happen now. So for them, it's relevant that it all goes fine, transactions go through. It may happen in a couple of blocks, in an hour, in 5 hours. They only need that it's a guaranteed inclusion. So, of course, this is an abstract concept and doesn't, strictly speaking, apply only to a validator. It could be RPC provider or specific service, but that is a use of block space. And it's a specific use case. Fees do not matter that much. They need to be low, but inclusion matters. On the other hand, of course, it's all the trading arbitrage, things like for example, payments. If you're trying to process a payment, and what we usually think of payments, they are kind of a simple concept. Hey, I pay you, I just transfer something. But behind the scenes, for a real payment, it's way more involved, and there are various use cases. And this is where, for example, Jito may come in. So you need to be guaranteed that this payment goes now, and then the fee is relevant. I mean, you may go slightly higher, but you want to be assured that this will go through right now. And for the block space, for us as a validator, it's also an indicator of economic activity. So when there is a lot going on, block space is contested. And that's why things like Jito and now Triton Cascade Marketplace start to emerge. If you have not followed Triton Cascade, that's exactly what it is. It's a marketplace for block space where you can buy block space and you can sell block space. And the concepts are similar to what I described. You could be looking to buy it right now because right now you need to do something like an economic activity, or you could be doing it ahead of time because you have analyzed something and you want to buy slots in the future for your use case. And in the validator game, practically what has happened is that whoever can allocate block space most efficiently wins. And that's why, Jito has obviously, double effects because it does other things for the network, but there are a lot of other projects next to the two that I already mentioned that are looking to further make inroads into the block space allocation. For us as a validator and as an entity that operates in the space of in the allocation of block space, this has become really relevant. So then the next logical question is, how do we figure out what to do in that block space? By the way, I did not mention, but Mike or anyone else, feel free to interrupt me at any time with questions. I'll be more than happy to take them on. All right. So how do you figure out what to allocate? There's the usual MEV bundles. On Solana, that is primarily Jito. On other networks, there's a lot of other things that may be going on, and it's obviously very different on Solana and the other high-performance chains because you only have 400 milliseconds to do something. Ethereum, you have more time, and you have more time to analyze, and that's why they have this complex system of searcher, builder. For those of you that you do not know what these concepts are, if you've been focused on the Solana side of things, because of the longer Ethereum time for block inclusion, there is a separation of concerns that has searchers who are really analyzing the mempool and trying to figure out what are the most beneficial, in terms of MEV in this case, most beneficial sets of transactions. The searchers participate, they kind of bid together with builders. So builders are packing these and forming blocks. And then the third entity is a proposer, or in our case, this is a validator. So the validator is really the entity that proposes the block. And there's a whole economy that works in the Ethereum space around this. And there's, of course, it's Ethereum, so there's a little bit of ethics discussion. Who is allowed to do what? Nobody should be doing like all three functions. There are entities that are doing it. And we already see that there's also similar thinking for Solana, maybe not immediately implementing the exact same system because it would not work. It's just too many players, but currently Jito is playing some sort of a role like this where they pre-bundle transactions for the validators participating in Jito. And we see this evolving more and more. And when it comes to, if we go back to our topic of data, this is where it becomes relevant. How do you figure out as a validator whether you're doing the right thing and including utilizing your block space in the most efficient way? We operate obviously on data. There's a lot of data going through us, and these large streams of data, and us being validator allows us to really try to figure out. I don't think anyone has really super figured out everything in this space, but try to figure out in real time what is happening right now with the data that we have at the moment. And you probably know how everything works in the Solana stream of events. So when you get the slots, you've already have been forwarded as a leader. You've been forwarded the transactions that are meant to form a block, and there's a constant stream of shreds that come your way. And this window of opportunity becomes super interesting for us. This is where we've started digging in terms of data. And we've been analyzing both historical data and real-time patterns of, for example, accounts that have a long-term benefit for us, including them in a transaction. Again, if we compare MEV is something that is short-term. Okay, you just try to extract as much value as possible, and you get the bundle, you get the funds, you move on. That is kind of a predetermined. But for us, it has become interesting to see, is there a longer term benefit to favor certain accounts and programs of, okay, these accounts, we don't know who they are, obviously. I mean, this is not like we're favoring our friendly neighbor, John, close to the office, who has like a tiny wallet. We do not know anyone, but we can see through historical patterns that including certain transactions from certain accounts has long-term benefits. And how do you do that? That's where the data analysis comes in. Interestingly, yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. In what way would you be benefiting from it? Like, what would it mean if you wouldn't include those addresses where you would benefit?
So it's an open question for us. What we see, like I'm just telling you what we see right now from the analysis that we are doing, is that despite the fact that certain times it's better to include something else, we can see that some accounts appear again and again, and they have a constant stream of economic activity. And what we are hypothesizing right now is that enabling these transactions to happen eventually lead to more transactions happening. We don't know. We don't know. I mean, that's a hypothesis, but we've been building heat maps on these data sets with accounts and trying to see the blocks that go through us versus blocks that goes through some of our peers and competitors. And it's quite interesting to see how some validators use this pattern where really certain accounts are favored. Could be that it's somebody that have a relationship with already in some other way. Others are playing a more distributed game. And this has become really a sort of I wouldn't call it a competitive ground, I would call it, where really we're trying to figure out which data streams and what type of transactions are favorable for us and for the ecosystem in the long term. Right now, of course, a lot of arbitrage. In the future, it may be different. And we're not only trying to figure out the account, but also what comes with the account or behind what is behind the account. So labeling and classifying addresses and accounts is meant to give us then the broader picture of saying, okay, so we can see that there is it's better for us as a validator to give higher priority of DEX transactions versus centralized exchange transactions. Again, hypothesis at this point, we have not validated it. But this is what we and a lot of other people are really working on right now, trying to peek ahead and figure out what is not only the short term, interest of just including an MEV or doing some sandwiching, seeing who is doing some sandwiching, but instead figuring out the long-term thing. What other interesting thing, and it just popped in my mind right now, is that we are also trying to analyze whether there are any bad actors in the validator space that are doing toxic MEV, and these are analyses that already has been floating around, but we're further trying to peek in there and see who's behaving nasty on the blockchain. It's not black and white. It's not easy to tell, but there's certainly some of the smaller players are trying to do things that look a little bit off.
And how would you classify if some MEV action is sort of malicious or bad behavior to no bad MEV behavior?
You can detect sandwiching. There are distinct steps or trails that expose the sandwiching behavior, and now I don't recall exactly the sequence of events that are happening, but we have it somewhere here in a repo that is showing practically this was a sandwiching activity that went in.
Okay, so you are able to see within those small time frames if sandwiching is happening, and then you try to figure out not included into the block. Is that right?
This could be a goal in the future. For us right now, we are not there yet where we have built enough knowledge base in order to do that in real time. We can see it, in some of the analysis when we go back in time and review what is going on. But it could be one of the use cases where you can see that this is definitely sandwiching happening.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll be happy to answer more questions, because these are our thoughts. This is how we think right now as a validator of the economy, of what is going on, and what is our angle in the data science space. And I'll be really happy to hear if anyone has done anything already, or has more questions on the topic.
Yeah, maybe of a general topic. Like when I first researched about staking facilities, I wouldn't have imagined that one of your goals would be to have to be like one of the stabilizing factors of Solana, or like to make a fair transaction-based stream for users. Would you say it's like one of the main goals that you have?
So for us, it's been more of a philosophy and principle to always do the right thing, and the right thing for the Solana network. I wouldn't say that we are at the point where we can become a sort of a policeman. I mean, that's not what we are trying to do. But we are trying to incentivize good behavior on the network. And our vision is that block space is an enabler for real economy, eventually coming to Solana, needs to be, I don't know if I should use the word fair, but at least it should be somewhat predictable. We don't want, imagine the following. I mean, recently I was buying some NFTs, and what struck me was that my transaction, if you just go to the website and try to place the transaction, it failed 6 times before it gets included. And when you think of why is this happening eventually, and this is where this block space allocation concept becomes important, because this is a particular use case where you see I'm not that concerned if my transaction will happen right now. Okay, I want it to happen somewhere in the vicinity of the next 2 minutes. I'll be okay if I get like a spinner saying, yeah, transaction in processing, don't worry, your NFT is safe. We're just placing the transaction, etc. Of course, I can maybe put a priority fee, maybe find another way of buying this NFT, but this is not what my mother would do. When my mother goes to a website and wants to buy this NFT, she wants to have predictability and know what is happening. I mean, mind you, my mother is struggling with regular debit and credit cards because those systems are broken as well. But at least they're somewhat predictable. And I would say this is our goal. We want eventually to drive the ecosystem to a place where it can really be available available and open to everyone, not just the people that are deep in crypto and can do fancy stuff. But yeah, it can come to the point where my mother can buy an NFT without wondering what the hell is going on.
Yeah, I think this particular aspect might be hard to have an impact on. Like, I mean, a simple solution would be for those people who aren't into the space already, just like put up very high fees for a transaction, then you have a higher chance, right? But
Of course.
to have like a system that is like reliable, as you mentioned, definitely might be of a harder task. And do you maybe know, are there any players who are also looking into it, or is there any way of going from concept or like idea to actually putting it on chain, or is it like just a thing that you're currently looking at in staking facilities?
Yeah. So a reminder, we are validators, so our window of how we look at these things is more from an infrastructure point of view. So I gave examples with end applications to illustrate the concept. But that being said, we definitely start to see more movement into the vertical integration, into a vertical integration where players start to think of verticals and how they eventually place transactions on the blockchain. So this means that there are projects that already look into working closely, for example, with wallets or with financial institutions and try to understand the use case of that particular vertical or program or application and figure out what does this mean for placing these transactions on the chain. And yes, it is a very hard task looking at it from the current state of affairs, and especially for somebody like staking facilities that we are really a validator operating the block space, but we do get approached by people with specific use cases saying, yes, I want to place transactions on chain and I want predictability of what this is happening. Solana, of course, has had a number of solutions around that, like stake weighted quality of service and other pieces. But what we see right now is further development closer to the actual applications. We think because we operate across multiple chains, we think that there is some pressure, like healthy pressure on Solana from chains like Sui, where we see they really focus on the application, like what is the end application looking like, what are the use cases of that end application. And we see some nice activity, I think, transferring over to Solana in this case. Still early, but yeah, that's how we think about it.
All right. So would you say you are also looking for applications to build for this kind of aspects, or would you say people should look or even work on projects to tackle this issue?
As always with blockchains, there's way too many infrastructure projects and way too little application projects. I would say that they are maybe it's somewhere in the middle. I think that it should be a kind of a middleware, middle layer that starts thinking about these items a little bit more. So of course, G2 is somewhat in this space already, but there should be more focus on specific verticals. And on the application level, I think there should really be strong, how to put it, I wouldn't say demand, but if you're building an application, I think overall the applications on Solana need to raise the bar further in what they offer. Solana is like the blockchain, and the technology underneath is like a jewel. It's a marvelous piece of technology. And my personal view is that we are the ecosystem, and we, like with the broader, we are not delivering the applications it deserves overall. And I think even the foundation can do more in there. But it gets a little bit more philosophical in the space again, not exactly our domain. But what I would say is that for everyone that builds applications, be demanding and find the partner that is really serving the needs for your block space. If you start thinking about block space as an abstract concept, and it's something that is not just, hey, I want my transaction included in there, but really, I really want to allocate that block space and be sure that it serves my needs, it will play out for the better of the ecosystem.
Yeah, I see. So probably we don't have anybody from Solana Foundation here, but maybe from the people who are also joining hackathons or are in general interested in stuff like this. What would you say an average user, or like a person who would not only build for the hackathon but maybe create a startup on Solana would be able to benefit from the tech that you have? Or like, what would you think might succeed in this regard?
Talk to us if you're building an application. It would be beneficial for both sides. First, you understand the dynamics of what is going on underneath in the validation and block building in general. And we will get a further hint of what is going on. So, and in the meantime, because we are well connected and we see what's going on already in the let's call it middle layer, so that layer that is really catering to those verticals that need it, we can connect you to the right people, the people that can serve your need. And yeah, it could be a beneficial partnership in the end.
And talking about reaching out to you, what would be the best channel or way to do that?
Well, we'll be at the hackathon in a couple of weeks. Yeah, you can talk to us there for sure. Obviously, our hosts from Super Team are always a good contact, but feel free to reach us over Twitter at any time, or contact us through the website stakingfacilities.com.
Right. So yeah, for those of you who don't know yet about the build station, which is like the place where we will have a 2-week session where people can join, develop their products or their startup in general. And yeah, feel free to check out this link. Then you might be able to see even Pavel in real life and talk to not only him but players from other sides, and also the Twitter, if people would like to talk to you there. Is it the same link as
Yes.
we before. So, all right, then I can also share it with you guys in a second. Maybe in the meantime, if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section. We have the ability to see it on YouTube and on X.
Yeah. While we are waiting for some questions, interested whether you see anything from Super Team perspective on the block space topic. It's because it's something very active on our side, and even as a term, does it come your way as something that people are actively already building or thinking about?
Well, actually, we had this 3-day zero to startup session 2 weeks ago, roughly. And actually, from what I've heard from the hackers so far, they aren't like looking into the concept of getting in block spaces and so on. They have more like a user interactive kind of approach. So it's not really into the infrastructure of Solana and how to operate based on that technology. So I think if people would be interested into going in that direction, it's definitely a part to look at, specifically when it comes to data science, right? I think we haven't talked that much about data science in general, because like when we look into blockchain applications, it's always somehow related with data, like has to be. But then again, maybe this would be a sort of an aspect for people from outside of the blockchain space who are familiar with data science in general. And I think this is where people could also look into and specifically be a sort of use from what you guys also are doing.
For all of the data scientists out there who are also interested in blockchain, talk to us. I mean, we are also hiring in this space because it's a hard nut to crack. If you've dealt with data, there's this popular GIGO term, garbage in, garbage out. And if you want to do anything with the data, with the on-chain data, it's hard work. You really need to put additional efforts to enrich the data and understand what is what in there. It doesn't just, it's not pressing a button and finding out some data stuff. And of course, you can try out Dune, etc., but it's not enough. It takes some time to cross-check and figure out what are you looking at this point.
So if you are targeting specifically data scientists, how much of an blockchain knowledge do you think people should have? Or is it even required? Because what we've talked about MEV and block space, this is what I would say more of an advanced topic. Yet data science itself is doesn't not necessarily be blockchain related. So what do you think what a person would have to know?
I would say that if you're a data scientist and you're looking to try it out, this is a very good angle to get in because you don't need prior knowledge. It's an abstract domain that you need to figure out what is going on. So I would say no as a prior knowledge. Of course, if you happen to have it, even better. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say that it's a prerequisite.
Okay, that's good to hear. Maybe from people. I saw that some of Aachen people are joining from universities where we also have very much of data science perspectives. So if you are looking into that, definitely try to develop something in the hackathon. And as Pavel said, you might have a chance to even get some job opportunities. But for that, maybe I would say recommend to participate in hackathon. Try to work with the tech that you guys have. Maybe so. I have the link here that I can share with you. It's like the local track for the current hackathon. Yet it's quite a long one. So if you would just go to earn.superteam.fun and go through the listings that are there, there is like two hacks that you have, right? One is for the global hackathon, one is for only Germany members. And how much would you say succeeding in this hackathon would lead to better chances in getting a job?
Well, significantly. Let's put it this way. Actually, I'm pretty sure that if succeeding in this track can get you a place in not only with us, but with anyone else in the space, in the validator space, because everyone is competing on that. So if you're looking to get your way into companies doing infrastructure in the crypto space, this is a very fast track right now. It's very heated competition.
Definitely also one thing that I would recommend. Everybody who wants to go into hackathons are the best place to be at for the future. Talking of future, maybe this would be an interesting thing if you would want to share your story about how you yourself came into the position of being in staking facilities, or like starting even in blockchain, and why you did so.
Yeah. I got into blockchain somewhere around 2016, 17. I got really fascinated by the consensus aspect of it. So yes, cryptocurrency is a use case, but for me, the application of decentralization and trustless in general are incredible. So at the time, I was actually working with a payments company, and I said, okay, guys, we really need to look into that, and drove a crypto track within that payment processor. But a little bit later, Kraken, the cryptocurrency exchange, contacted me, and I joined them somewhere in 2018, I believe, 2017, and I joined Kraken, where started building different things. The first, my first 2 years were probably busy with integration of different crypto networks, launching tokens, fiat rails, etc. But then we stumbled upon the I believe it was the Cosmos staking beta together with an engineer. And we were looking at it and said, okay, it's inevitable that exchanges will make their way into staking. There's no way that this will not happen. And I formed a team and designed and launched Kraken Staking. We made it. We made it only, despite different hurdles. I think we were the second to launch back then. But first was, I believe, Poloniex at the time, and they were already not that popular. So we said, okay, we are actually on a good track, and it became a big success for Kraken. And later did other things there, like launching a bank. But eventually, the wonderful folks from Staking Facilities reached out, and my time at Kraken and around staking was something that made the match possible. I'm always more interested in infrastructure and large scale operations, so I think it was a wonderful fit in the end. Yeah, that's the story.
Yeah, your story reached way far back, way before I've started in 2020. So you're more of the rare kind in crypto, I would say. Very long into the space already, but very great insight. Thanks for sharing. And
Of course, thank you, Mike, for having me here. Thanks everyone who is listening and watching. and looking forward to meeting all of you at the hackathon.
Thank you very much, Pavel, for having this presentation, and also for all of you guys. Thank you for coming, and definitely don't miss the build station, because it will be like 2 weeks of just co-working. You can ask all the top mentors from the space that are in Germany. We will have lots of opportunities for you there. Definitely, you will be able to create a project where you can have very high chances of winning. So don't miss that one out. Also, thank you very much again for everyone, and we will see you in 2 weeks for the next Developers Guild, if you won't be joining next week for the build station. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.